Sometimes simple ideas led to ambitious and complex projects.
Cairo is a very gray city. People living in Cairo are living under 1 square meter per capita of greenery in rich areas. So we're talking about in poor areas that one inhabitant has the luxury of less than his footprint of greenery.
To work in historic city is always a high-risk proposition. In the case of the Arb el Ahmar, there are things that have not worked. People have been used for about 500 years to look out of the windows and see a heap of debris and garbage.
The entire area was not a safe area. It was a very difficult zone to work in.
We had at one point 1,200 workers on the job. It seemed like a mission impossible.
Some dwellers were saying we would pray to God before falling asleep that we would wake up and the house will not crash on our head.
You can't give up on a dream like this. It's such an enormous project that impacts a lot of people.
The idea of building a park in Cairo was brilliant at that time. We had no greenery. So creating this park actually, in my opinion, was like the biggest impact, not just on the area, not just on the neighborhood, on the entire city of Cairo.
This area was a barren piece of land, which for about 500 years has been used as a place where unused debris were thrown away. It was really a garbage dump. So the idea to build a park here may have seemed rather utopian or ridiculous to some of them.
Arb el Ahmar historically is a neighborhood that developed following the 12th and the 13th century, and since then it has been evolving. It has been continuously inhabited by people, by craftsmen, by a very, let's say, very solid community of local residents of historic Cairo. However, it has been suffering from a lot of high levels of poverty, deterioration of the physical conditions, and lack of investment in infrastructure. So it was deteriorating as an inner city neighborhood.
A seminar organized by the Aga Khan Award for Architecture took place in Cairo in 1984.
It gives me great pleasure to pay tribute to His Excellency the Prime Minister and His Excellency the Governor of Cairo for the help and encouragement which both they and their officials have given to the organization of this seminar and to the site visits associated with it.
The Cairo seminar was very important. It was on the metropolis of Cairo. We had the seminar at the Marriott Hotel, and then we had field visits. H.H. met the president, he met the prime minister, and it was on television every day. Everything was very well covered, and H.H. was very happy with the result and the way he was received. So he said, I want to give something to Cairo, so please go and see the governor. So I went to see, about a month later, I went back to Cairo and saw General Abu Talib and said, H.H. was very happy, and I think you're happy. He wants to donate something to Cairo. So he pondered a bit. He said, look, we are very short of green spaces. How about a garden? I know it's not architecture, but what about the garden? I said, well, I can speak to him about the garden, but I'm not sure he'll accept. He said, look, there are three, I'll give you three proposals. There was a small one, which was a square somewhere in the old city. I can't remember the name of the square. About 500 square meters. There's another plot of land which is about, I can't remember, 1,500. And the third, there's a big rubbish dump on the road to the airport that everyone knows, everyone complains about the dust when there's wind, etc., which is 35 hectares. And that's a bit big. I don't think he'll accept, he said. But go and see him. It's next to the Azhar Mosque. Prime area, he said. Just give him these three. So I went back and told him these are the three proposals, and I suppose the middle one is the one which would... And he said, no. How far is the rubbish dump from the Azhar? I said, it's just next to it. So then, that's what I want. I was surprised. I went back to Cairo and told the governor, that's what he wants. The governor was surprised too.
People actually in Cairo love to go outdoors, especially at night, in summer. Yeah. People are sitting in like boulevard medians or on bridges. They're really looking for a spot of green space. Yeah. We hope it will attract a lot of birds. In Cairo now, when I was young, I used to see maybe 10, 20, 30 species of birds, but now a child who cannot see even a single bird in Cairo, he said.
Going to build a green space on top of a garbage dump. It seemed like a mission impossible.
It represented a titanic work because in one hand, many cubic meters of saline soil had to be removed and replaced by earth brought from elsewhere, fertile earth, that will provide the adequate soil for the plantations that were to transform this space into a green space.
I would like to simply say what a unique opportunity it is to develop a park of this nature in the heart of historic Cairo, to create a park which will, inshallah, bring well-being not only in terms of the environmental context, but also in the social context. And it is probably going to be one of the most unique parks because I am not aware of any other cities that have this opportunity.
So we took the essence or the criteria that was used in Islamic gardens, in terms of quality and detail and use of indigenous plants, indigenous trees, and enjoyment, and the very careful and intelligent use of water, the use of aromatic plants, the containment of space, the intricate use of pattern and so forth. This, we hope, will reflect on the people on terms of the perception and conception of people of what is a park or what should a park be.
The next step was to keep the topography, the new shape of the mountain intact. And then it started to rain and the slopes are starting to disappear. And then to find ways and means to fix that. That was our most immediate and pressing problem. We didn't know how to fix the slopes. And we started doing the wrong thing, is to put in irrigation. It was even worse. And then finally this was resolved by a number of measures, building a wall in the bottom and finding the right type of plants to fix the soil.
We had a brilliant doctor called Dr. Badawi, and he's an expert who came in, and he tried various species of plantations to go in various areas of the park. So I would give the whole credit to this person. People are very suspicious at the beginning of somebody giving a gift, and they always have this, you know, in the back of their heads, why is somebody giving us a gift? I mean, there is no gift without something in return, so what's behind the park?
So the idea of involving the people of Darb al-Ahmar was very important. Yeah.
There was major skepticism. All they see, they cannot build, they cannot take a permit, they are going to be removed. That's all they know since the 70s, from official papers in the district. And so to tell them that there is this project that is willing to put money to repair your home on condition that you also participate was something unbelievable to them.
There are about 200,000 people who live in Darb al-Ahmar, and therefore in the major investment in the park needs to be able to have a ripple effect on the demography around the park, and therefore you have to build that into the overall program. And so we're working in housing rehabilitation, we're working in microcredit, we're working in education and healthcare, we're working in upgrading local NGOs. So the important thing is to enable the community in Darb al-Ahmar to benefit from the long-term return on the park.
While the grading of the park was taking place, along roughly 1.1 kilometers on the edge of the park, this great monument started coming out of the ground, which is the Ayyubid wall. What a revelation. It is considered one of the most important Islamic findings in the 20th century. Now, what do we do with this magnificent structure that has been sitting under the debris and rubble for over 500 years?
We were amazed also because we found the internal spaces of the wall in these round towers, probably built by Christians, prisoners by Salah ad-Din, because the architecture is exactly the same as the military architecture in Europe of the same time. We found these enormous spaces in the round towers where nobody had been before for several hundred years, since they've been filled with earth.
The issue was how much of it would be excavated. I mean, clearly it makes a big difference excavating 1 meter and excavating 10 meters in terms of not just that work, but all of the conservation work, future planning. You know how you've got whatever level you excavate in. The same is true in here. Once the excavation's over, you've either got a choice of backfilling, raising the level again, or committing to quite a long period of maintenance and conservation.
The discovery of the walls, the restoration and the construction of the archaeological promenade represented a number of millions of dollars that were not forecasted or foreseen in the initial budget plans.
So one thing after the other, we had to be creative on how to use the wall, how to integrate it into the landscape, and how to integrate it into the rest of the monuments in Darb al-Ahmar. The residents of Darb al-Ahmar did not appreciate the monuments that are all around them because there are laws that actually require their eviction from their houses because they are within 10 meters of a monument. And most of them were either abutting a monument or within that proximity. We told them that we would work with the authorities and we would help them, and that's what we did. We were able to convince the authorities that these laws were for pharaonic monuments, but not for Islamic monuments where the residents have already built and live integrated within these monuments. At that point, once they realized that their tenure was secured, they started appreciating these monuments and seeing that these monuments now could become a way for them to gain a better living because tourists and Egyptians would come into Darb al-Ahmar. They would buy their products, they would be able to trade, their workshops would be able to sell directly to them. So a different feeling altogether started to take place.
This program helped many people to work, to find work, to improve their work, to give you a credit program, to working with you, to training, to hire you in other places. So he find it is very important program here.
You know, this district specifically has been famous historically for marble work and stonework. And that dimension is used here. There are a lot of masons that are very skilled. There are a lot of carpenters also that do the fine woodwork. There's the young people also who can be trained. So that dimension of blending historically and blending socially was very important.
This is a good example of what we try to do, is to revitalize traditional stone cutting techniques by restoring monuments. So it's not only improving the physical condition of the monuments, but making sure that the techniques to restore it are still available.
The great thing in Dar al-Ahmar was the construction of the school as a community center, and then the restoration of the square, the Al-Aslam. We installed also some children's playground there, and we remove a very old cafe and allow the owner to occupy a new cafe we built for him. So that was a revitalization of the community life by and promoting the relationships. As you know, here in Cairo, the people relate to themselves in the street. This is very much of a city of street life. In Dar al-Ahmar, as in many other historic cities around the world, individual and significant monuments are a great asset, not just for the present generation, for future generations. And Dar al-Ahmar, this area of Cairo, compares with Florence or Rome or one of the greatest and most densely historical cities in Europe. Is the equivalent in the Muslim world.
Currently, and since '95, even UNESCO is acknowledging intangible heritage. So it's not just monuments. It's also the people, the activities, the heritage activities, and who conducts them. And Dar al-Ahmar is a place where most of the residents are either producing craftsmen or merchants in traditional crafts and traditional vocations.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Madam Mubarak, Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. 21 years ago, we had a vision that launched us on a journey of inquiry, exploration, and discovery. The path we followed has led us finally to this evening, at the inauguration of this magnificent park, with so many who have contributed to this historic achievement. Many projects continue, and there are no doubt many surprises to come and many lessons to be learned. I constantly have been reminded that we were touching the very foundations of my ancestors, the Fatimids. 35 generations later, through the work done here by my institutions, it is my prayer that this park will be a continuing contribution to the people of this great city. Thank you.
In the most congested days, which are holidays and peaks, visitors would reach 40,000 in one day. We would end, alhamdulillah, free of any incidents due to our efforts and services provided to our visitors. I wish we could do more, but we're doing everything we can to please our guests and to please our visitors. And I think we're doing a good job. People are happy. People are very happy with the park. The government considers this the benchmark of all parks. Whenever they write a story in the newspaper and they say, we're going to build a new park better than Al-Azhar Park.
Al-Azhar Park on the top now, the top of the parks. And now when I come, I was very happy to see what we did.
And until this program stopped in 2009, there were applications. Until 2012, I'm walking the streets here. Some 14 years later, people stop me and say, is the housing program still running? Can we still join? I have an old house and I want to renovate it.
It is a project that not just challenges technical, but also it impacts humans. It impacted lots of families, and it makes one very proud because the ability to show the heritage of this country in the way it should be shown.
Heritage is not transferred in history books only. Heritage is also lived. Historic Cairo is living heritage. It's not fake. It's not a museum. Giving attention and value to the professions, to the lifestyle, to the families of craftsmen, to the buildings that they built and designed themselves, gives them dignity and gives them a message that they are of value. Knowing who we are, appreciating where we come from and who we are is very important.